And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ann Vandersteel. It is great to be with you on this Wednesday, 3 o'clock. Been a while since I've done a Steel News show. Still in the war zone. I'm back in the saddle after crisscrossing back and forth across the United States for the last 10 days in multiple time zones. So if I look like my eyes are going in different directions, well, it's because I'm still a little jet lagged. Anyhow, it's a chemtrail-free day down here in South Florida, which is highly, should we say, appreciated. And so thank you to the chemtrail gods. I've been getting some good stuff from Jane Ruby, who's talking about, not she is, but she's been sharing some stuff from a guy that does sort of, I think it's on a channel that has electrocution farming or electrical farming where you're using copper wires. We've just now started putting that in our gardens, and we're already seeing results of our gardens growing more quickly. So if you're not familiar with the copper wire, wrapped around a twig or a piece of wood from your backyard and put in the ground with some wire sticking straight up into the air, go do it and watch your garden just go boom. So there's definitely energy and, important stuff getting pulled out of the air that's really feeding the nutrients of the soil, which is, critical if you're going to want to really get off the grid, which is what we're trying to do, get off the grid. And speaking of getting off the grid, I want to just talk to you a little bit about this particular event that's coming up May 2nd to the 4th. It's in Harmony, North Carolina. Billy Bond, who is a wonderful permaculture farmer. He's got Permapastures Farm. I've interviewed him before. I've met with him before. He's a great guy. Actually, I was on his podcast. Excuse me. He didn't come on my show. I was on his show. He's got a rockin' podcast. Hilarious, as a matter of fact. He's a great soul, great spirit. He is, I think he's solved the problems with the chemtrails and all the stuff that's getting rained down on the skies. They put him in connection with Mike Adams a couple of days ago, maybe last week sometime. And if you have been paying attention to what Mike Adams has been doing and Dr. Jane Ruby, when I was at Jane's house not too long ago, we noticed that her greenhouse, which she had a plastic tarp greenhouse over her tower gardens and different pots of stuff she was growing, it was full of the stuff. And oddly enough, her greenhouse was underneath her patio. So why is it getting all this crap on it? So I said, let's send it to Mike Adams. So she did. And Mike put it under the microscope and he found a lot of crazy stuff. So go check out Mike Adams' podcast over there at Health Ranger on X, because he's breaking it down. And some of the stuff he's seeing is even radioactive, really not good. That being said, Billy Bond, who lives in Western North Carolina, went through the floods of Helene and the storm and all that. It has been dealing with soil remediation for a long time, and he believes he has a solution. So I've connected him and Mike, and we're going to see where that goes. Mike's going to sort of be the control and look at all the stuff, the before and after Helene's, and see if, in fact, Billy's permaculture farming methods are remediative of the soil, which would be fantastic because they've been spraying us with God only knows what. I know it's barium and aluminum, which, if you know the scientific periodic table, BAAL is ball. That's what these Satanists are doing. So just check that off. Hopefully we can get some support there from Billy Bond. And then we've got Pac Miltech, who's a former UFC champion. And he's got some pretty interesting minerals that he's using to help people get healthy. I, of course, am going to be talking about what I always talking about: sovereignty, the Constitution, how you can get yourself more free from the tyranny, the arms of the federal government, which are trying to drag you into their jurisdiction. How you can claim and be, on top of and controlling of all three areas of jurisdiction: the land, the air, and the water. And we'll break that down for everybody. And there'll be other great people there. So if you're around in the area, May 2nd to the 4th, check us out. And if you use the promo code STEEL10, STEEL 10, you get 10% off of your tickets. This is a wonderful event. Can't say enough about it. And the other thing I want to bring up to you also is, if you saw this at the beginning of the show, the Department of Government Accountability, DOJA, this is part of our American-Made Action organization, and AmericanMadeAction.org. As you'll see on the lower third of my name, is our 501c4, which is going to be getting very active in the legal arena. We're going to use lawfare and legalfare against these demonic lower courts, these administrative courts. And we're starting off with an agency. You may know them as Child Protective Services, or Department of Social Services, or Department of Children and Families, or DCFS. Depending on where you live in the 50 states, they all have a different 3 or 4 letter acronym. But the big one under HHS, Health and Human Services, out of the corporate Washington, D.C., is CPS. And CPS has tentacles, and they've got financial connections. I'm surprised DOJ hasn't pulled this out yet. I'm hoping to get Elon's attention with DOJA, Department of Government Accountability, Doge is looking at numbers everywhere, and they're pulling all this ridiculous money out of the system and putting it back, hopefully, into our pockets. But Doja is actually going to be attacking CPS. We're going to start with that agency, totally unconstitutional, and we are going to be leveling lawsuits. And this is where you all come in. If you are a lawyer and you want to participate in this, go to AmericanMadeAction.org, AmericanMadeAction.org. We have a place where lawyers and paralegals, if they want to be involved in these lawsuits that we're bringing in all 50 states, we'd love to have you. And if you want to support, because this is major lawfare, no one has ever gone after CPS to cut the head of the snake off the way we are going to be going after them. No one. I mean, no one. And I'm getting death threats now, by the way, folks. So they are listening to my phone, using language of private conversations I'm having with people in the room, and they're letting me know that they're listening. So if you saw my X feed a few days ago where I was showing you the death threats, well, that was a private conversation I was having with someone, and they were using language from that conversation to let me know they're listening because they don't like what we're doing, because we're coming for them now. The way Doge is coming for them, Doja, is you and me, the people, and we're going after these demons in CPS. We're going after these black robe bar card mafia members, and we're going to derobe them, and we're going to, we want to make sure that the bar is irrelevant. You don't need to be a lawyer in order to represent yourself in a common law court. And we're going to reinstitute and bring back up to the surface what we all should be operating in, which is the court of common law. Last but not least, I want to just let you know that as I flew out of here, I guess it was on Saturday, I did a turn and burn to go address the United Sovereign Americans. This is what I'm still seeing. There you go. Chemtrails. They're still out there. They are still in the sky. And they have absolutely, no inhibition about still spraying our skies, despite the fact that we've just, defunded USAID, which a lot of that, I believe, was coming out of, because that was a massive slush fund. They're still doing it. So we've just got to be ever more vigilant and all that. Anyhow, getting back to the matter at hand, CPS is a big deal. There's a big story that's breaking right now. And I want to make sure we can get that story up here on the screen. Let me bring it up here for you. Hang on one second. There we go. You guys should be able to see this. Sudden and unexpected. This is a post that came out a couple of days ago. I want to make sure you can see it bigly, as they say. So this post is talking about a terrible case. And my guest coming on today is very familiar with this case. So this is a case of a family out of Massachusetts, and it's the parents of 5 Fitchburg, Massachusetts children who've been arrested for protecting their infant from actually being vaccinated. Can you imagine that the parents don't have parental rights to say no to a vaccine? So this is another mass family that has been torn apart by the iron fist of the state. This time it's a homeschooling family of 7 from Fitchburg, driven out of their home and across state lines to Texas, hunted like criminals by the Department of Children and Families, DCF, and local police. And their crime was standing firm on their God-given parental rights and refusing to vaccinate their healthy 9-month-old baby, citing deeply held religious beliefs. So, I mean, this is a beautiful family. The Fitchburg police swarmed their apartment, pounding on doors, prowling property for half an hour. And this is while the mother hid in the closet with her 5 children. So I'm not going to read this entire thing because we do have a guest on here that can talk about it. He's very familiar with it. These are the parents right here. Beautiful people. And they truly don't believe that they need to have government interference into deciding what is best for their children. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our guest now to talk about this. You know him. He's been a fearless freedom fighter, and he's been on my show many times. Brent Johnson. I apologize, Brent. I'm so used to going by my friend Brent Hamachek, who joins me regularly. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining me today, and give us the latest on this horrific story.
Well, okay. I'll tell you how it started. Okay. Now you gave a good introduction. Okay. This is a family of 7, 5 children, and mother and father. And the 5 children are, I believe the oldest is 6 or 7. The youngest is 7 months old. They have been raised pretty much off the grid. No social security numbers, no birth certificates, no anything that would involve them in government. And their children are beautifully and blessedly healthy. Really, really healthy. No problems at all. For some reason, and to this day, I do not know why, but for some reason, the parents decided to bring the youngest child, the 7-month-old, into a hospital to be looked at. Now, it wasn't like something was wrong. There was nothing wrong. She wasn't displaying any kind of symptoms or anything of the sort. But for some reason, they decided to bring the child in. Now, understand, as far as the hospital is concerned, they know nothing about these people because they have been off the grid. So they check out the child and everything and ask questions, okay, and ask about vaccination, and they said, no, she has not been vaccinated. Now, again, the doctor who examined this child said afterward, she is perfectly healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He saw nothing at all wrong. But he said, because she has not been vaccinated, this is the doctor speaking, I have no choice but to report this to, in Massachusetts, they call it DCF, what we call CPS. Okay, they call it Department of Children and Families. But it's the same thing. Okay, I have no choice but to, if you don't let me vaccinate her, I'm going to have to report to DCF, to CPS. Okay, and I don't know what he said, okay, to the doctor, but in essence, that's how it was left. They went home within a matter of days. Now, the government never does anything quickly. This is the exception. Because within a matter of days, somebody from DCF came knocking at their door saying, I'm from DCF, I'm from the government, you have to let me in. Okay, he knew better than that and didn't let her in. Okay, and she kept, crying about, you have to let me in. Okay, I'm here to check the children and whatever else she said. Okay, so she went away. She came back again within a day or two with police. Okay, police were there saying, banging on the door, you have to let us in, you have to let us in. We need access. They did not have a warrant. Okay, they knew they didn't have a warrant. They did not, they did not break down the doors or anything like that, but they made a lot of noise. And anybody who is sensible would be somewhat frightened by that.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, they got really scared about that. A day later, they came back with more cops. Okay. This was not going to go away. And they said that they're setting up, they're having a court hearing and you're going to have to come and bring the children and all of this. Now, understand, there was no due process here at all. None. No service. Okay. And frankly, no case at all existed at this point. This was simply based upon the doctor reporting to these people that this one child, had not been vaccinated. That's all that happened to precipitate the entire matter. Well, they decided that hanging out and waiting for this to escalate was not going to be something they were going to do, and they got in their vehicle and they left Massachusetts and they headed out. They ended up down in Texas, and I had occasion, just so you know, to meet the children and the parents, and your description of them is absolutely correct. They're wonderful, wonderful children. Okay, and nothing, the only thing they did wrong was going and taking the child into the hospital. Right. I have no idea why they did that, but that's what precipitated the entire thing. So they were down in Texas, okay, and I was working on getting them somebody who could actually rip apart the entire matter. He had already looked into Massachusetts law. The law around Massachusetts is that a father or a mother can take a child out of the state and it's not kidnapping. When the charges in Texas ultimately showed up, the charges were levied in Massachusetts, but in Texas, they found him, they arrested him, they took the children, Okay. And they were going to extradite him. But in the process, I saw some of the paperwork that was public record on the case. And the charges were parental kidnapping. Now,
Right.
I can tell you right now, under Massachusetts law, what they did is not parental kidnapping. Period.
Right.
It's not. And the gentleman I had working on this said that, all we have to do is get the actual case file, and we can rip these people new ones all the way down. These are constitutional violations. This is a federal matter. This is Fourth Amendment violation, very clear Fourth Amendment violation. And he just had a laundry list of things that they were going to be able to do. The next thing you know, they were back in Massachusetts. Okay, I don't know exactly when.
So they went to Texas, and now they've turned around and gone back.
No, they did not turn around and go back. They were taken back. They were picked up in Texas. Okay, the case was listed as closed in Texas because they were extraditing them back. It was paperwork to get them extradited, got them back, put them in Massachusetts. Now, the interesting thing here is that I had a docket number. We could not find a case file. They first would say there is no case. They actually said that there is no case. Okay. Then they said that you can't get a case file unless you're a relative. Okay. And they came up with so many different excuses, but no matter how hard we tried, we were not able to get a case file. Now, ultimately, okay, somebody who had been looking into CPS violations and was actually working on a case in Oklahoma came forward and picked up the case and now has the case. And there is a case file there. All of that stuff is there now, and they are working diligently on dealing with this. But I will tell you this, that it was very strange. Nobody would give out any information about where he was being held, about what the case was about. I mean, it was very, very odd. Something that should be public record. It was almost impossible to get any information on this case. Now, I will tell you that something did happen. They had a hearing, and something did happen in the hearing. And I'm so sorry I wasn't there, because I would have taught him. He had a great opportunity to deal with it. The judge entered a plea of not guilty for the father. Interesting thing, the father was the one who the case was brought against, not the mother.
Right.
The mother was not incarcerated or anything, only the father. When the judge said that I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty, there was an opportunity there, and he missed the opportunity. What I would have taught him to do was you actually ask the judge, if this ever happens to you, by the way, make note. Okay, excuse me, Judge, I understand that you've entered a plea of not guilty on my behalf. I'd like to know, are you practicing law from the bench, or are you rendering a judicial determination?
Yep.
Now, any judge will yell at you if you ask that question. You say, what? Well, I just like to know. You have to be doing one or the other. Okay, you have entered a plea of not guilty. Are you practicing law from the bench, or are you rendering a judicial determination? I did a skit in one of my freedom seminars about this exact scenario. And as the skit played out, ultimately the judge was pressed and he had to answer the question. And the only way he can answer the question is, I'm rendering a judicial determination, because any judge who would admit to practicing law from the bench would be thrown off the bench immediately. Okay, that would be the end of his judicial career. Not such a bad thing, but that's what would happen. So no judge will ever answer that question that way. Okay, and if he answered the question, I'm rendering a judicial determination, then the case has been decided as not guilty. He rendered a judicial determination of not guilty. This was an opportunity missed. I don't know how the judge would have responded, but a smart person would press the issue, get it on the record. I want this on the record, please. Okay, you have to be doing one or the other. Which is it? And if the judge did say, I'm rendering a judicial determination, then the case is closed. It's over. It's
Right.
done. There's nothing they could do. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. Okay. Unfortunately, he didn't know to do that. So now he is at the whim of these people. Now, in the process, while this was going on, we looked into a number of things. And one of the things we found was every child that is taken represents something like $1.4 million to the agency. I mean, there is a financial incentive to take these children. And the moment there is a financial incentive to take these children, you can guarantee that what they are doing is not constitutional and is not unbiased.
Can you clarify $1.4 million over what period of time?
I do not know. I do not.
Well, the reason I ask that is because Title IV is the funding that comes out of Social Security Administration's Title IV funding is what funds CPS by and large around the country. And so when we're looking at Social Security and what DOGE has uncovered in terms of billions and billions of dollars of payments to people that are dead, clearly they're dead. They're 160 years old, 130 years old, whatever. You know, this is another sort of gross example of the fact that, say, like in North Carolina, they were taking children from families because they didn't have a roof over their head. Instead of CPS saying, fine, we're going to rent you a house since you lost everything for $3,000 a month. Instead, they would take the child for somewhere between $6,000 to $10,000 or $11,000 a month. And if there was multiple children, by a factor it by 2, 3, however many kids it was. So clearly it wasn't about keeping the family together. It was about the pay that is, like you just said, enormous amount of money is set aside per child. It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah. And in all honesty, okay, the end game for all of this is a massive American taxpayer revolt. Just everybody, you stop paying income tax, stop paying Social Security tax, stop paying property tax, just refuse. I'm not paying, you're not taking my property, and I will fight with my life to stop you. You know, everybody. I mean, you really want to, because personally, I'm so fed up with this. You know, all of this. I can teach you one at a time how to opt out of just about every tax out there, because there's no such thing as a mandatory tax on the American people. It doesn't exist. It's all voluntary. You don't know how you volunteered. You don't know how to unvolunteer. But the truth is, we need a massive tax revolt, because all of this stuff is happening because of money that was taken from you. You're the ones who are paying for CPS. You're the ones who are paying for the chemtrails. You're the ones who are paying for all of it. And if we just shut it down, that's it. We are no longer paying these taxes at all. Now, hopefully, in President Trump's agenda, okay, is the idea of eliminating the IRS, going to a VAT on new items only, a value-added tax, and substantially reducing, taxation on the American people. Though property tax is another big one that needs to be eliminated. In Florida, I understand they have Governor DeSantis has backed a bill to eliminate the property tax. So, it's a good sign. The awareness is coming up now. But what these CPS people are doing, they are participating in child trafficking.
Right.
Because there is a market. There is, as it's a terrible thing, that I could even sit here and have to say this, but there is a market, a commercial market for these children. These children are sold, and then the people who buy them use them and teach them to become dutiful, obedient slaves. Okay, whether it's sex slaves or whatever it is that they do with them, they make a lot of money because there are a lot of people out there who are perfectly happy to use children in this manner. And the government takes full advantage of it. And very frankly, I would like to see them hanged by the neck until dead in a public forum so we can all see them.
Oh,
I probably
it's,
shouldn't say that on a live show because
it's
people
just
would.
like, woo, I don't know.
But the truth is, at what point, in all honesty, the American, the United States of America was founded on a revolution. It was a revolution. That's what it was. It was, we are no longer going to allow the government, this was the British government, to do the things that it is doing to us. We are going to stop them. We're going to stop them by any means necessary. It was a violent revolution. It was not a quiet, peaceful thing. They didn't
Right.
sit there and vote to remove King George. So we were founded on that.
Yep.
Okay. Is there nothing that is worth taking action against? I mean, is there nothing that justifies taking action to force the evildoers to stop doing what they're doing? Is that an unfair question?
Not at all. As far as I'm concerned, Brent, with what we're planning on doing with the Department of Government Accountability, and perhaps you want to be a part of this little team.
I would
We've
love
got
to.
we're assembling lawyers that aren't doing law because they're bar card carriers. They're doing law because they're sick of the corruption. They realize, just like medical students and doctors who are now waking up to the fraud of the medical community, starting in the in their education, including the Harvard and the Princeton educated physicians out there. They're realizing they were lied to. I mean, we're finding out that cancer can be cured with a number of things that have nothing to do with killing you with chemo and radiation.
Mm-hmm.
And people are pissed. Imagine spending $500,000 and still paying back your student debt, only to find out everything you learned was a lie. Well,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not everything, but a lot. And that you've been doing more harm than good in a lot of instances. You had more patients you could have saved the lives of. Imagine dedicating yourself and believing your Hippocratic oath to find out that what you were doing. That's what lawyers are experiencing right now. The more that we see the corruption in the judicial bench, the more that we see how the family law courts completely obliterate your 10th Amendment rights. I mean, a lot of times they don't even let you speak. They start at one and they violate everything else. They take your guns, then they want to, have people monitoring you in your house all the time. Then they're going to come in and just go through your stuff and forget due process, forget a jury of your peers in a common law court. No, it's like mass tyranny, execution style. You're bad. Your kids are coming with us, and you've got no say in it.
And what we need to do, understand, Adolf Hitler could not have been removed peacefully.
Right.
It simply could not have happened. It was not a possibility. So
Right.
the evildoers out there, and there are many of them, the evildoers will not be removed peacefully. It's not about, and I do very much like what President Trump is doing. I hope President Trump continues to do what he's doing, and even more. But it is not about him. He cannot save us. Okay. The bottom line is we're supposed to be self-governing. That means that we are responsible. We are the leaders. We are the kings and queens, and it is our responsibility to fix this. You talk about Department of Government Accountability, and I think that's a wonderful name, but accountability needs to hurt the evildoers.
We're planning on making it painful. Believe me, we're going after them personally, not just behind their agency corporate, placard.
I would love to have a seat at that table. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of seat at the table, there's a lovely woman by the name of Joan Quinn Eastman. She's with Boston Broadside, an incredible writer, journalist, been actually up in Massachusetts, and has been covering this story, writing about it prolifically. She's been keeping Maureen and myself informed. And she's also very intimate with this story. She just arrived here. I've invited her to come in because I think it's important that we get all hands on deck to, fill in blanks where we may have some missing pieces, because this family is one of millions of families that are being persecuted by these rogue agencies and these black card mafia members of, the bar card mafia member, hiding behind their black robes. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to welcome now Joan Quinn Eastman. Joan, it is great to see you. I know you're not on camera today because you're out and about, but can you give us a little bit of a look when you brought this case to me and Maureen, from your perspective, just how egregious all this is and how corrupt the judiciary is in destroying this family?
Absolutely. And first of all, I just like to say that I absolutely want to join Brent at the table too, because this concept of citizen-driven government accountability is extraordinary, and it's something that that we've been working with Ron Bouchard with
Yep.
on people2.us. So, very excited to hear other people say they understand the importance of this and want to be part of it, and absolutely ditto over here for all of us.
Great.
And then I just have to say, you two, you Ann Vandersteel and Maureen Steele, are so extraordinary in getting the word out and exposing and bringing out of the darkness this corruption that is victimizing this poor family. So many updates just since your terrific Substack article came out yesterday, Ann, which I plastered all over the place.
Oh, good.
The mother has been released. Her family came up with the seven. Well, I guess I should give you an overview of the situation first. The family of 7, couple that's been together 15 years. They took their baby to the doctor, and the doctor was really pushing the shots. And they said, no, thank you. Our research is indicating that there's much more risk than we're comfortable with. And our sincerely held beliefs are that our child should not get the shot. And he kept insisting, and even got to the point where he threatened and said, if you do not give the baby the shots in 9 months at this point, I will have to file a 51A for neglect.
Wow.
Now, in my opinion, this doctor's action was criminal. And what it did is it tipped over the first domino that has caused a disastrous effect that is tearing this family apart. So this particular father was very well aware of his rights, and he said to the doctor, no, I don't have to do that. And sure enough, DCF started banging on the door. He ignored it. He notified DCF that he did not consent to engagement with them, did not want to contract with the agency. And then the next thing you know, his house was being surrounded by police.
Yeah.
And so he was under the impression that they were insisting on a well baby check, which he said, I don't need a well baby. The doctor just said my baby is very healthy. And because I choose not to give him a shot does not make me guilty of neglect. So they kept harassing police and DCF. And he finally he took to social media, and people said, you need to get out of the state. Someone from Texas reached out to them. So the family decided to just get out of state until it cooled off and hope that they could shake off DCF. DCF is contending that they were properly served a summons to court, which they were not, and that they fled the state as a direct violation of law. And now when he showed up in court, he said, you don't have jurisdiction over me because I am the living man. I am not the fiction. And the judge hammered him, put a $25,000 bail on him. Same as one of his inmates in the prison he's in now has the same bail for murder. And this is a man that was just trying to protect his child. So this is such a stark example of how the administrative courts are abusing and victimizing wonderful families like this. They've had 5 children. They've been together 15 years. They homeschool their children. That's another reason they're targets.
Of course. They're out of the system. They're not married under a magistrate or a justice of the peace. They have a common law marriage under the eyes of God. Number one, that's the first thing. Let's be clear. The Bible is our law book.
Right.
They are homeschooling their kids. They don't vaccinate their children, and they don't recognize somebody who's asking them if they understand, because they don't stand underneath a robe. They stand under God. And those are all things that fly in the face, right, of their beast system.
And the question has to be asked, why did they bring the child in? That's the thing. People for some reason, they're constantly bombarded with, we'll give you these benefits. We'll give you these benefits. We'll give you these benefits. Won't cost you anything. And they ultimately, for some reason, they fall for that. And I mean, this is the tragedy here. If they hadn't brought the 7-month-old in, we wouldn't be having this show.
They said that they were notified that they had to get a wellness check on the baby because they had taken it to the emergency room, I guess at about 4 to 6 months, stayed overnight with some upper respiratory stuff. Baby ended up being fine. But the pediatrician reached out and said, we need to check out the baby. And he was like really, really pushing the shots. And the father had to get a little terse with him and say, look, buddy, you know what? I'm uncomfortable with the way you're trying to impose these vaccinations. We're not vaccinating babies, so I guess find another pediatrician.
That's a good piece. That's a piece I did not have on the story. And there's a lesson here. Okay, you never, ever, ever go into a hospital. Okay, you just don't do. A hospital is a death trap. Okay,
Yeah.
read. I'm one of these people. If I walk into a hospital, I actually read all the fine print that they have for new patients. And there's all kinds of stuff you have to agree to. Okay, I would never agree to it. I would never agree to it. If you genuinely have faith in God, okay, I would sooner trust Him to take care of the child.
There you go.
Yeah,
I'm with you, and they feel that way too. And to all accounts, and let me tell you, I've talked to multiple family members. I've seen a lot of feedback on social media, and they are adored and they are confirmed as a very healthy, happy, harmonious is the word that's being described. I interviewed the woman who harbored them in Texas, and she spent 2 days with the family, and she said they were amazing. The children were all well dressed, well fed, very polite, very happy.
Yes, I actually saw them in Texas.
Really?
Yes, I sat with him. We had a lengthy discussion, okay, about the whole thing. I sat with him. I met her. I met the children, okay, and they were delightful. They were absolutely delightful.
Leave it to Ann Vanderstiel to put together these pieces. That's amazing, Ann. That's fantastic.
Actually, no, it's divine. It's divine intervention. Brent was scheduled with me for a couple of weeks, and I told him I'm going to be traveling for 10 days. And he says, well, I want to talk about a CPS case. And, Joan, there are millions of these cases, and we hear about them all the time. And so wouldn't you know, it's this particular one, and you're bringing it to us the other day. He's been on this for I don't know how long, Brent, you've been dealing with this. And so you were desperate to get this out. And of course, it's the same one. It's God. Well, it's a divine intervention, divine appointment.
I found out about it just when it first happened. I mean, just before, before they left the Massachusetts, Did
you know these people before this happened to them? Did you know them prior to?
No.
See, and this is what I mean. This is what people need to do. And this is, when we are talking to organizations, right? So Maureen and I are talking about, and I think you all are on board with this. We're talking about literally taking down this agency. Like President Trump has now said goodbye to the Department of Education. Does anybody miss it? I don't think so. I don't even think anybody notices that it's gone, except our wallets might be a little fuller over at Treasury. So there's that. However, that being said, we are very, we are like going to be dogs with a chew toy on this. We're going to keep going at these agencies, and we're starting in the states, and we're going to be going federal, but every single state is going to get hit with these lawsuits to remove these agencies. But it creates a vacuum, just like anything does, because people have become used to the system. So we're talking with organizations, and I'm not going to put anybody on blast yet, but those that have plans to reconstitute something in place thereof, but it's at the local level, and it's through the people, not through some agency with some black robes that are going to make decisions. It's truly a people-led application of how do we help these families when they go into crisis, whether it's financial, whether it's weather and they've lost their homes, or whether it's truly there's violence in the home. But it's got to come back on the people in the neighborhood, because at the end of the day, when you walk out your front door, don't you want to know your neighbors, and don't you want to know you can depend on them in case something happens to you? We have got to get back to that. We have to stop looking to mother federal government to help us, because clearly they hate us and everything that they're doing.
You're right.
Well, government, I've told you before on our conversations that my favorite founding father is Thomas Paine. And Thomas Paine, in his brilliant essay, Common Sense, wrote of government that government, at its very best, is a necessary evil. Now, most people will cite that as, you see, government is necessary. I cite that as, you see, government is fundamentally evil. And this is why it doesn't matter who's in office. President Trump may be absolutely the most wonderful human being in the world, but the character of government itself is fundamentally evil. Okay, what it seeks to do is take from Peter and give to Paul. Okay, that, and by the way, it will always have the support of Paul when it does that. So there is always a contingency of people who favor government because government is taking from others and giving to them. Okay. And as long as that's going on, you will not have a 100% anti-government movement. Okay. It's not about anti-government. It's about keeping the government in its proper place. The way I describe the Constitution to people is the Constitution is like a whip and a chair, and the government is like a beast. And you take a whip and a chair and you put it in a cage with a beast, nothing happens, because you need a beast tamer, a lion tamer, someone who picks up the whip and the chair and keeps the beast in place. We, you, and you, okay, you, Joan, me, all of those who are watching this right now, we are the lion tamers, and we have been sorely remiss in our duties to keep the beast tame. And that's why this has happened.
To keep the government in the box in which they belong, because the sole purpose of the government is to secure our rights.
That is correct.
Outside of that purview is criminal. And that's why all these politicians need to be held accountable. And this is why the idea of DOJA is so exciting, and really want to build momentum behind that so that people like the Rivera family are not victimized like this. I spoke with her attorney the other day. She was released on $7,500 bail yesterday, but now she cannot even speak with her partner of 15 years because she has represented herself and given up her rights to represent herself and yielding to the attorney. So they can't even share information or strategy. He is trying to continue on the path of representing himself. We just got him some critical information about that today. I had requested an interview through the Worcester County Jail so that I can get him on video, hear his entire story, have that documented, as well as share some critical information with him that could help him. And what's happening to this family is simply criminal. They have been torn to shreds. And for what? There's no crime. There's no law they've broken. There are no laws. And this was all done with the rubber stamp of a magistrate, not even a judge, under the cloak of darkness in the middle of night.
And Joan, if I may, okay, you may want to convey to him, okay, there is a distinction between representing yourself, okay, and standing for yourself. Representing yourself is pro se. Standing as yourself is pro per, or propria persona. He wants to be pro per, not pro se.
Not sui juris?
Sui juris is applicable, okay, in either case. But
so explain the difference again between pro se and pro per.
Pro se means I am representing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Pro per means I am standing as myself.
Mm-hmm.
The distinction is that when you are representing yourself, then you are being represented. Okay, you are being represented. I'm sure you're familiar with Corpus Juris Secundum, CJS.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Volume 7, Section 2 specifically says that when you are represented, you are considered to be a ward of the court, non compos mentis, mentally incompetent.
You're basically an imbecile. Yeah.
That is correct. That is correct.
You said that you are not competent to represent yourself, so you need someone else to represent you.
Yeah.
So, correct. So the idea is you stand pro per. In other words, I'm standing as myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nobody is representing. It's a subtle distinction, but it's important when you're dealing with these people.
Brent, have you been following the case? Did you hear what happened when he? By the way, they were held in Texas for almost a month.
Not quite. Yeah, not quite a month, but yeah, you're right.
And he stood in court last Thursday, and he said, "You have no jurisdiction over me." And so, what did he do wrong that enabled the judge to lower the boom like he did?
Well, what you missed, I mentioned it earlier before you were on. What you missed was this: the judge gave him a wonderful opportunity. The Massachusetts judge entered a plea of not guilty for him.
Right.
Okay. Now, if I was with him, I would have said, okay, what you do is you ask the judge the following question. Excuse me, Judge, I understand you've entered a plea of not guilty for me. Would you please tell me By doing so, are you practicing law from the bench, or are you rendering a judicial determination? Now, the judge would not like that, and he will yell at you. He'll say something like, "What?" You know, I simply want to know the answer. It has to be one or the other. Which is it? And you press the issue. If you press the issue and continue to press the issue, if the judge answers, the only way he can answer is by saying, "I'm rendering a judicial determination," at which point he's not guilty.
Interesting. Very good. Good. Really good to know. We were kind of hitting a dead end today, so this is definitely divine intervention. Really appreciate that, Brent. We need to follow up.
Yeah, and no, since you guys have taken over the case, I've just been a spectator. I've just been watching. I had somebody who was going to, as soon as we were able to find a case file, we couldn't find a case file. They wouldn't give it out. They wouldn't reveal it. They said there was no case there. I mean, it was unbelievable. And we finally were able to find things out. But I even had a docket number, and they still said there was no case. But once you took over, okay, I said, okay, I really hope these guys are everything that they sound like they are, because he really does need the help. But what my advocate person was going to do, he's a non-attorney advocate, and he's brilliant. He's been dealing with CPS for 50 plus years, very successfully. He's written books on it. And he was going to go after them for fundamental federal constitutional violations, Fourth Amendment violations. Massachusetts state law does not qualify what they did as kidnapping, even though they were charged with kidnapping.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a laundry list of ways to go after them.
So I'd like to show one of the ways that Ron Bouchard, who Joan Quinn Eastman brought up, who's a wonderful man. I've had the pleasure of speaking with him on a number of occasions. Maureen and Joan have worked with him for a long time. Joan, I know you have for a long time. He's got, these guys have built this beautiful website, We the People, #2.us. We the People 2.us. And this is /children / where I'm at right now. But this is, talking about this particular case, and he goes into detail here about CPS and all, just the things that have been, horribly just afflicting our children, the stuff that we see in the school system. Of course, the fact that they're sacrificing children through abortion and trying to confuse our children with gender. But he also has, and I'm looking for it right now.
It's under CPS. It's either under Protect the Children or Current Action. Probably Protect the Children is better. And what it is he actually has a notice posted right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Here it is. Yeah.
To all the players involved in this case and putting them on notice that what they're doing is unlawful.
Yeah, here it is. CPS is not law enforcement; is corporate enforcement. And the information on this website is fantastic. Most CPS entities are sub corporations of the state, registered with Dun & Bradstreet commercial databases, and operate under the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC administrative process. Which, as everybody at this point, if you listen to me enough, you should know that's not common law. Common law is common sense. That's about as I don't know if I can make it any more plain than that.
The other thing about corporations is all corporations have one thing in common. Every corporation, and that is that it seeks to make a profit.
Correct. So, and to that point, since you've said that beautifully, to seek to make a profit, CPS is a sub corporation. It doesn't exist to protect the children by the rule of law. It exists to process families through a revenue generating administrative system funded by child removals and foster placements. And if you look at a maxim of law, would have you warned. It says, he who does not understand the maxims of law, there is no extent to which he may be deceived. Is this the one here, Joan? I know I had it yesterday. Is this the piece right here for this family?
It should be, because I don't think he has another one up. He adjusted it for this family. You can tell if you go right to the top. If you I'm
looking at it right now. I'm trying to make it bigger here.
All from me to see, but it's the same notice. It's just specific to this case.
Yeah, this is the notice, but I don't see the family's name or anything in this particular case.
It would be interesting. Somebody probably has done it by now, but somebody ought to go out and reveal who are the shareholders.
Interesting. Wow.
Every corporation has shareholders.
Right.
Be an interesting thing.
And they used to have D&B numbers, but they changed those just so that it would be harder to find.
Yep.
The same way they make the information so difficult, which leads me to the next thing I wanted to mention. I contacted the prison last Friday requesting an interview. It is almost a week later and I still haven't had the interview.
I
It is
believe it.
the biggest passing of the buck ever. Oh, yes, we had to send him the request in writing and he has to respond in writing and we haven't received anything back. And I'm like, oh, really? I spoke with him today and he told me he put his response confirming the interview in writing and into the internal mail. Oh, I'll check with the internal mailbox. I should be able to process this tomorrow. Nothing today. Nothing.
I believe it. I believe it. I believe it, Joan.
Hope to get in there.
What needs to happen, again, Department of Government accountability, but accountability, like I said, needs to hurt. So what needs to happen is, you file the various documents, okay, establish a claim, go after the claim. When they keep ignoring things, let them, through their ignorance, give tacit acceptance to the next step until you have the sheriff walk in to take their car and remove it.
Right.
To hurt them.
Yep.
Okay.
Follow the
Take
money.
their
Follow
money.
the money.
Take
Yep.
their money. Take their pension. Take their house. Make them destitute, or at least make them believe they're going to be destitute if they
Right.
don't comply.
Yep.
Well, there's been people, and you can always, the root of evil, as you know, is the love of money, not money itself, the love of money. And whenever something is grossly wrong, like what we're seeing here, all you have to do is follow the money. And this is a great idea to find out who the shareholders are and expose them.
Can we file UCC liens on them?
Well,
yeah, if you have a justification for the claim, absolutely. And you do have a justification for the claim. Anybody at all who is a government player, okay, is acting on behalf of the people themselves, theoretically. Okay, that means the people themselves have a stake in that relationship. And because of that, they have standing, regardless of what the maritime courts say, they all have standing because they have a stake, because the people in government are there to do things on behalf of the people.
Right. Interesting. Well, closing thoughts here, Joan. I mean, you brought this to our attention a few days ago, and you've been all over this like a dog with a chew toy, because I knew specifically this was the case you were talking about. Brent, I had no idea which case you were. There's thousands of them out there. I figured it was somebody that you knew in your neighborhood. But I'm going to let Joan, put sort of some final thoughts and some, calls to action. Then we'll go to you, Brent.
Well, first of all, Brent, I absolutely have to connect with you to fill in the blanks on a few things.
I'll make that happen.
I'm so happy to hear that here we have confirmation that this family is wonderful and they're not saying that they're like what they're being painted out to be. I've got this vision. I found a TikTok in the middle of the night last night, and it's because I was searching for anything about them. And there is something about them up there, but there was also a story about CPS wrongfully taking 5 children and admitting they were wrong and returning them. That's the vision I am holding on to for this family.
Yeah.
But to get there, we need a couple of things. First of all, mother is out. That cost the family $7,500. DCF is dictating that she has to have supervised visits with her 5 children who she has been separated from for 1 month. This is cruel and unusual punishment. The siblings are separated. The baby is with a sister, and the 4 children are with the mother's mother, the grandmother, maternal grandmother. There are no indications the children have received any vaccinations. That's a blessing. They were all checked out. They were all checked out to be healthy and in really good condition when they were returned to Massachusetts after they were discovered in Texas. Now the father is sitting in court. There are some mechanisms we're trying to put into place to get him out of jail, but he's looking at a $25,000 bail. So the family has started both a GoFundMe and a Give, Send, Go.
Mm-hmm.
They really need contributions. There are people working around the clock for them that would, are going out of pocket, having things filed, copied, etc. They've lost their home. Their landlord evicted them in the wake of this.
Wow.
They've lost their possessions. They need to completely start over. And my prayer for them and my hope for them is that they are able to stay together as a family because it's classic DCF and CPS um, planning to destroy the family. That's what they're all about. They're about
Yep.
pitting the couples against one another, and it's interesting because that's what's happening. The mother has a lawyer, the father does not. They're trying to paint the father as mentally unstable when all he's doing is standing on the truth and standing on his rights because he knows them, and they are without a doubt pillorying this man. They're making an example of him because they don't want the secret to get out, that we've
Right.
got power, not them. And we've never lost the power. We've only lost the knowledge. That's why it's so critical to get that knowledge back so that you can protect yourself against these things. And
Yeah.
I am praying that this young father is able to continue to stand on his power and that he's triumphed. He has a hearing coming up on the 15th. Anyone can, it's a public hearing from what I understand. We would love to pack that courtroom. Please contribute to
Where will the hearing be on the 15th?
uh, Fitchburg District Court, I believe. And
In Fitchburg, Massachusetts District Court.
right. And so
Okay.
I believe they may review a lower bail at that time, or he may even get out. I'm really hoping that the public pressure will have them say, you know what, this was an administrative error. We're going to move on. But either way, the family is going to need funding because they have to put their entire lives back together. It's so sad. And also to urge people to please go to wethepeople2.us/CPS and under the category Protect the Children. And if you scroll down, you'll find that notice. Please sign it. You can sign it electronically. You can print it and fax it. You can mail it by snail mail. You can email it. But let public servants know that we will not sit idle and allow this abuse and this destruction of the family, one of the greatest pillars of our country, to be destroyed by these greedy, nefarious, corrupt activities. Our judicial system absolutely needs to be reined in. And congratulations to Maureen Steele for her article that just came out today proposing the abolishment of the American Bar Association. I'm 100% with her.
Yeah, this is the article right here. As a matter of fact, I'll put it up on the screen. Can we see that now?
Yes, in the American.
Yeah, there it is. Abolish the bar, the root of our corrupt and lawless judiciary. It came out actually a couple of days ago. We were just made aware it was posted in American Thinker. This is like her third or fourth article published
Fantastic.
there. Yeah, it's a very prestigious publication.
Very
This is
powerful article. She's calling
Yeah.
for accountability with everyone.
Yep.
The judicial system, which is just justice for criminals, and my letting criminals off the hook. But anyway, yeah. So please sign that petition. Be part of the process. Read those words. Let those words resonate with you. They're empowering. There's nothing more empowering than knowing your rights. And once that light bulb goes off in your head, it's a transformational experience when you realize that you hold all the cards, you hold all the power. You just have knowledge.
Yeah, that's it. Joan, thank you so much. Brent, final words from you?
Yeah, before I give final words, Joan, has a habeas corpus been submitted?
I don't believe that's happened yet, but everything is all queued up, and I would really love to talk to you about shoring up some of those steps and making sure all
and we'll put you in touch with me. Absolutely.
Yep.
So folks, yeah. Okay. This has been a great conversation. It again speaks volumes on what needs to happen is we need to force the issue. Well, you know, we cannot continue to depend upon criminals to give us remedy. You go in and you show them the law and you say, okay, now you need to rule in our favor. Okay, it's like go up to a bank robber sometime and say, excuse me, did you know robbing a bank is illegal and you can go to jail for many years? There isn't a single bank robber on the planet who's going to thank you and go home.
Exactly.
Right.
By the same token, when you go in and you ask a corrupt judge, okay, or a corrupt official or a bureaucrat to do something, okay, on behalf of the law, it's not going to get you anywhere. We need to force the issue, whether that means armed revolution, okay, or militias walking in and escorting these people out of their offices because we no longer are willing to pay you.
I say we lock them out. We just lock them out. They did it in Michigan. They locked the whole town out. The whole town.
Right.
Right. Lock them out.
That's it. And that's what is needed, because as I said before, Adolf Hitler could not have been made to step down peacefully. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please do. Okay, I have a tremendous book, The American Sovereign: How to Live Free from Government Regulation, that really will teach you how to live free from government regulation. And has one, and it's fallen to pieces. She uses it so much that I had to get her another one.
That's wonderful. And that's the reason I know, Anne. And I certainly hope that the public has reached a critical mass where they're actually going to be galvanized and take some action. And I am really hoping that Doja is that galvanization.
And I definitely count me in, and I would like to talk to you more about it and how we can come together, whether it's through Zoom meetings or setting up events or whatever it is. We're going to make that happen. My website is www.freedomradio, all one word, freedomradio.us. Please join me out there. Call me at the 888 number, 888-385-FREE. Okay. And I would just, love to know all of you, because we need every one of you to take the reins and pick up the whip in the chair and beat down the beast that is government.
You know it.
Amen.
And
Amen
Anne,
to that.
Please follow Boston Broadside on X, Boston Broadside on X, and also you can see stories on bostonbroadside.com. It's the only conservative newspaper in the Northeast, and it's privately owned and run, and they need subscribers. They need support to stay in business, because they are the people's paper. They've published Maureen Steele many times, and I've worked on a lot of in-depth investigative articles, and they're giving it a platform that no one else will. So please go to Boston Broadside on X, follow the stories, and join us in this fight, because this is a very, very exciting time. I sense a revolution, a really positive revolution coming. So very excited to meet you, Brent.
Well, it's a revolution of ideas and of knowledge. We're getting the knowledge back that we lost. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be an armed revolution. We don't need to go there. I think people are pretty smart. They just don't have the information, which is a powerful weapon. And that's what they've been trying to hide from us. So that's the revolution I see happening. It's an information revolution, which is why I'm an information war correspondent. We don't need bullets. We just need brains. And let's fill people's brains back up again. And that's where I see us going.
We need footmen in this battle between good and evil, because that's exactly what it is. It's spiritual warfare right now.
Amen. Amen. Well, both, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I've already connected you guys together on text message, so you have each other's phone numbers. Sync up, and then we'll talk offline.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Joan, thanks for jumping in.
For all you do, Anne. I'm glad I saw it. Brent, a pleasure. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
All righty. Take care. Joan, appreciate her. Brent, thank you so much, as always, for coming on and, just being the spirit that you are. And I look forward to locking arms with you as we move forward with Doja, because this is what we need. We need Department of Government Accountability to walk in lockstep with the team at DOGE, which is uncovering all the corrupt spending. Well, it's time to hold the corrupt spenders accountable. And a lot of them are at CPS. A lot.
Yes, they are. Yes,
and they're
they
destroying
are.
families.
Well,
God bless you, Brent. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you very, very much, Anne, as well. And I look forward to the next time that we can get together to discuss freedom and sovereignty.
Absolutely. Amen. Take care. All right, everybody, that is a wrap. I really appreciate you spending a little time with us today on Wednesday. It's now 4:05 Eastern. Lots happening. I mean, it's just a fire hose out there, but my pursuit is still on behalf of your sovereignty, our sovereignty, what our founding fathers envisioned for this country, not this monolithic bureaucratic garbage we have that is dictating at us. I know President Trump's in the battle for the soul of our country right now when it comes to how we can uncouple ourselves from some of the demon beast masters, the people that we've unfortunately locked arms with at NATO and have funded wars that were nothing to do with protecting Americans, but everything to do with the intelligence community, using us like the beast, and they were the tamer with the chair and the whip. Well, we're grabbing that chair and that whip back, and we're going to tame the beast now. It's time that we restore that trust document, the Constitution, where God is our executor and the government is the trustee, and we are the beneficiaries. It has been flipped inside out, and the government has been the benefactor of our sweat labor, our sweat equity, and we become the chattel. And, we're done. That's not what God intended. That's not what our founding fathers envisioned. And that's not how we were set up. But somewhere along the way, and it goes back into the 1800s, we allowed it to slip. And we're not going to do that anymore. We're taking it back. President Trump told us in January of 2017, when he was inaugurated for the first time at 45th president, that he was returning power to you, the people, to us. And that's time. We've got to know where our power lies. And that's what they're afraid of, is that we're going to wake up one day and realize we are powerful and they do really work for us. They can't fathom that we'll say those words, but I'm telling you, we have to say those words. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Until next time here on Steel News, God bless. I'll have more stuff coming out Substacks. I've got some breaking stories coming out here out of Florida that are just absolutely horrific, unfortunately. And we've got, demons in the system and law enforcement. And, we're going to sadly see some of this tie back to Pam Bondi. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the reason why there's no action happening up there in the DOJ. I don't know. A lot of talk, no action. Doesn't work for this chick. Hope you guys have a great night. Good night, everybody.